Good morning, brothers and sisters. For today's Gospel, we have the passage from the book of Matthew, chapter 20, verses 17 to 28. This has two parts. We see in the first part that Jesus will predict his passion for the third time in the Gospel of Matthew. So here he's being very specific that he is going to be handed over to the Gentiles, he will be crucified and he will rise on the third day. In the second part, we see that the mother of James and John, so the mother of the sons of Zebedee, as it's written, requests Jesus to let her sons sit at his right and left hand. And following that conversation, the disciples, the 10 apostles, then kind of get annoyed. And then Jesus has to correct them and say, no, you can't, this is not how it's supposed to be. You are supposed to serve one another. The greatest among you must serve, be the least and serve the rest of you. The first time that I read this passage, the one thing that really struck me was when Jesus is requested by the mother of the sons of Zebedee, and he asks them, you don't know what you're asking for. Can you drink the cup that I'm going to drink? And Jesus gets the reply that Yahweh. So I thought that Jesus confirming with them, he's sort of putting like, okay guys, the condition for sitting at my right and left hand is drinking my cups. Can you do that? If you can, I'll give you. That's what I thought. And they say they can, but Jesus then says, oh yes, indeed you will drink of the cup that I am to drink. But he then says that, no, I don't decide. That's for my Father to decide who will sit at my right and left hand. And the first time I read that, I thought, whoa, Jesus, why are you being so shallow? You just promised them excruciating agony because of the cup of your suffering. And they don't even get to sit at your right and left hand. That's mean. But that's not what the passage actually means. As a wise priest keeps saying, you have to read a text in its context. The context for this passage is, in the past few chapters, there's this recurring theme of who is going to enter the kingdom of heaven and who is the greatest. So we see Jesus has appointed St. Peter as the first pope, and later to answer the question of who is the greatest in heaven, he brings a child before them and he says, unless you become like one of these, you cannot enter my Father's kingdom. And later, just the chapter before this, we see the rich young man comes and says, Master, what must I do to inherit the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus replies that, give up all you have and follow me. And he goes away dejected. And that's what starts the 20th chapter, where we see Jesus starts with the parable of the workers in the vineyard. The workers are appointed at different points of the day, and they all receive the same wage of 1 denarius. So we see how there's this tension of who's the greatest, who will enter heaven. And the same thing is what is going on in the minds of the apostles. But we have to realize that there's no such condition. Heaven is given to us free, we already know that. But here the thing is, notice that Jesus asks James and John, will you drink of the cup that I am to drink? And we don't really notice this much, but in Jesus' time, or in more Eastern cultures, the West for us, but Eastern cultures, we see that to offer somebody your cup but drink of the same cup was something of a privilege. It signified a kind of intimacy, a kind of closeness. And Jesus is offering them the same cup that he is going to drink from. That is the point. The point is not to sit at the right and left hand. The fact is that they are already receiving the same privilege as the Son of God himself. And we notice this even in the parable that starts the chapter, where they all, the workers who start, the laborers who started working at the start of the day, say, wait, why are you giving us the same wage? We should get more because they just started, they hardly worked for an hour or two and they're getting the same as us. And the master of the house replies, why are you jealous? Because I am generous. But the point there is, would we rather be unemployed than have something to do? What I mean is, the gift, the reward is the work itself. The fact that they got to work for a whole day is the reward, because otherwise they would just be waiting, have no employment, and they would also have no wages at the end. But here we are given this privilege of being one with Jesus, not simply in his kingdom or in his gifts, but also in his suffering. And that's why our passage starts with Jesus' passion prediction, where he's making clear to his followers, look, this is why the Son of Man has come. You might have wrong ideas about the Messiah, about what I am going to do, about who I am, but this is why I've come. I am going to be handed over, and I am going to be crucified, and I will rise on the third day. And he notes the necessity of Good Friday for Easter. And that's something that we have to reflect on in our lives. Yes, this is the season of Lent and we're preparing for Easter. But you can't get to Easter unless you get through Good Friday. And we like to think that, maybe some of us might, Good Friday we understand the importance of Good Friday, but it's the pain, it's something just to be gotten through, and Easter is the main thing. And in a sense that's true, but it is a privilege to be able to suffer with Jesus. As one early church father has written, to be able to die is human, but to be willing to die is more than human. Jesus gives us this privilege of allowing us to partake in his suffering, to share with him. And of course, not all of us are called to suffer. We know that the early church martyrs, the saints, the apostles all had to suffer lots of agony and had to die and give up their lives. That's not the kind of suffering or the cup of suffering that we have to drink from. And that's why we must reflect, in the season of Lent, are we keeping up the Lenten penances that we promised we would do? Or have we kind of lost our motivation? Or are our penances somehow mistaken? Is it about my self-advancement, my own fulfillment? Or as Jesus says, the greatest of you must serve one another. Are we in our lives serving the people around us, drawing them closer to King, drawing them closer not only to the kingdom of heaven, but helping them in their needs?